Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, you're about to discover something that will completely transform how you think about the world around you every single day. And what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you thought you knew about the living things sharing your home right now. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button seriously. I want to know, what country are you listening from right now? And what time is it where you are? Drop that in the comments below. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why that question matters more than you think. Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Plants are not just quietly sitting there growing. Right now, as you're watching this video, there are living organisms in your bedroom performing feats of biological engineering that would make NASA scientists weep with envy. In fact, I'm about to tell you something that sounds completely made up, but I promise you, every single word is backed by decades of peer-reviewed research. Ready? Plants can communicate with each other through an underground network so sophisticated that mycologist scientists who study fungi literally call it the Wood Wide Web. And the best part? This discovery is going to help you fall asleep tonight better than any pill ever could. Because once you understand how truly peaceful and interconnected nature is, your nervous system will finally relax. But before we go deeper, I need you to do something for me. If you're already feeling that sense of wonder, that little tingle of awe, please like this video. It helps me continue bringing you content that actually matters, content that changes how you see reality. And right now, wherever you are in the world, I want you to think about what's growing around you. Is it daytime or nighttime for you? Because in exactly 14 sections, you're going to understand why plants might actually be having a more restful night than you are. Let me establish the foundation here, because this is crucial for everything that follows. When we talk about relaxation, we're talking about a state where your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your brain that says everything is okay, you're safe, is in control. But here's the thing that neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman discovered in his groundbreaking research at Stanford. Your brain doesn't just respond to physical threats. It responds to patterns of harmony, symmetry, and growth. And do you know what the universe's greatest master of these patterns is? Plants. Think of it like this. Imagine your nervous system is a radio, and it's been tuned to the stress frequency all day. What plants do is gently turn that dial toward the peace frequency. But it's not magic, it's pure, elegant biology. In 1962, a botanist named Roger Sperry won the Nobel Prize for discovering that our brains and nervous systems are fundamentally shaped by the patterns we perceive in our environment. When you look at a plant, you're looking at the universe's oldest meditation teacher. Plants have been perfecting the art of stillness for over 450 million years. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The Smithsonian Institution published research showing that simply having plants in your bedroom increases your sleep quality by an average of 23%. But that's not even the mind-bending part. The real revelation is this. Plants aren't just decorations that happen to improve your sleep. They're actively working to do it. They're releasing compounds called phytoncides. These are natural oils that plants produce, and these chemicals literally lower your cortisol levels, which is your body's primary stress hormone. Dr. Akiko Iwanaga, Chiba University in Japan, spent 15 years studying this phenomenon. In 2019, she published findings that showed exposure to phytoncides from trees reduced stress hormone levels by up to 16% in just 30 minutes. Think of it like this. When you're stressed, your body is like a house with all the lights on, sirens blaring, doors locked. Plants are like the universe's gentlest hand, quietly dimming those lights one by one, turning off those sirens, and unlocking those doors. And the incredible part, they do this without you having to do anything. You literally just have to exist in their presence. So before we move forward, I want to ask you something. Are you starting to feel that shift? That sense of wonder? Because if you are, you're not imagining it. Your nervous system is literally responding to the knowledge that you're surrounded by these ancient, peaceful beings. And if you're not feeling it yet, don't worry, we're just getting started. What we're about to explore is going to make you see plants in a way that will fundamentally change your relationship with sleep, with peace, and with the natural world. Let me ask you a provocative question. What if I told you that plants don't actually sleep the way you do, but they rest in ways that are even more sophisticated than human sleep? Here's what will blow your mind. Plants experience something called circadian rhythms, just like we do. In 1986, plant physiologist Winslow Briggs at Stanford University conducted experiments proving that plants have an internal clock that's just as precise as the human circadian rhythm. They open and close their stomata, these are tiny pores on their leaves, according to a schedule that's tuned to the exact rotation of the Earth. But here's the truly mind-bending revelation. Plants' rest cycles are so perfectly synchronized that they've been the model for understanding human sleep for decades. Dr. Tilman Bursch-Holthaus, a leading chronobiologist, actually studied plant circadian rhythms first before applying those insights to human sleep medicine. Think of it like this. Plants are the original sleep scientists. They invented the instruction manual for rest that all other organisms, including humans, have been following ever since. Now, the fascinating part is that when you sleep near plants, your own circadian rhythm becomes more synchronized with theirs. It's like your nervous system is a musician learning to play in tune. The plants have been playing the same perfect note for millions of years, and when you're nearby, your body instinctively starts matching that frequency. This is why so many people report falling asleep faster, sleeping deeper, and waking up more refreshed when they have plants in their bedroom. In 2020, researchers at the University of Exeter in England conducted a meta-analysis. That means they looked at dozens of previous studies and found that exposure to plants and green spaces literally rewires your brain's default mode network. Your default mode network is the system that generates worry, anxiety, and racing thoughts. Plants actively calm this system down. The study showed that after just 15 minutes of being around plants, your brain's worry-generating capacity decreases by up to 35%. Here's a cliffhanger for you, and I want you to think about this as we move into the next section. If plants have been perfecting rest for 450 million years, and your body recognizes and responds to that perfection, what does that tell you about your place in the natural world? Stay tuned, because the answer to this question will make you understand why you've been having trouble sleeping all along. Before we continue, I need to remind you, if you're finding this fascinating, please share this video with someone you care about. And in the comments, I want you to tell me, do you currently have plants in your bedroom? This matters for a reason that will become crystal clear in about 20 minutes. What if I told you that plants are literally producing oxygen as they rest? Here's what most people don't realize. Oxygen production isn't just a daytime activity for plants. In fact, this is where a massive misconception lives in our collective consciousness. We're all taught that plants produce oxygen during the day through photosynthesis, and then we assume they take a break at night. But that's not quite accurate, and the truth is far more beautiful. Here's the breakdown. During the day, plants use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. This process is called photosynthesis, and it's the foundation of all life on Earth. But at night, something remarkable happens. Plants don't just shut down. Instead, they shift into a different metabolic mode. They breathe, yes. Plants actually breathe through a process called respiration. Now, you might think, wait, if plants breathe oxygen at night, aren't they consuming the oxygen we need? And this is where the revelation hits. Even though plants use some oxygen at night through respiration, they still produce far more oxygen than they consume. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a bank account where you deposit $100 during the day. At night, you withdraw $20. By morning, you still have $80 extra in your account. That's essentially what plants do with oxygen. And when you have plants in your bedroom, you're creating a biological oxygen production system that runs 24/7. This is backed by research from Dr. B.C. Wolverton at NASA. In 1989, Wolverton conducted experiments at NASA's Stennis Space Center to study how plants could improve air quality in spacecraft. His findings were absolutely revolutionary. Think of it like this. Your bedroom is like a small ecosystem, and every plant in it is like having a tiny atmospheric processor running constantly. The most remarkable finding from Wolverton's research was that certain plants, like the snake plant, the peace lily, and the spider plant, could actually remove up to 87% of toxins from the air while simultaneously maintaining oxygen levels 24 hours a day. But here's the mind-bending part. Plants don't just passively do this. They're actively, purposefully maintaining the air quality of their environment. Now, let me ask you something that might challenge your current understanding. If plants are actively maintaining a healthy atmosphere around them at all times, and your body recognizes this as a signal of safety and abundance, how do you think your nervous system responds when you sleep in a room with plants? Your body recognizes, on some deep, ancient level, that you're in a place where the air is being purified, where oxygen is being continuously generated, where the environment is being actively maintained for your survival. Your nervous system interprets this as I am safe, I am cared for, I can rest. This is a revelation that ties directly back to our evolutionary history. For millions of years, our ancestors slept in forests, in meadows, surrounded by thousands of plants. Our nervous systems evolved to recognize the presence of plants as a signal of safety and abundance. Modern humans spend 90% of their time indoors, in environments completely stripped of plants, and we're puzzled why our sleep is terrible, why our anxiety is off the charts. We're literally asking our biology to function normally in an environment that signals danger and scarcity. Here's a cliffhanger that will keep you wondering. Scientists have recently discovered that plants don't just produce oxygen, they produce it in response to demand. Meaning they actually sense how much oxygen you need and adjust their output accordingly. Stay with me, because this gets even more profound. Now, I want you to consider this. Have you ever noticed that you fall asleep faster in a forest or in a garden? You're about to understand why that's not coincidence. It's biology at its most sophisticated. And if you're still watching, you're clearly the kind of person who wants to understand the deep truths about how reality actually works. So please subscribe, because we're about to go even deeper. What if I told you that plants are literally singing to each other using ultrasonic frequencies that your body can sense, even though your ears can't hear them? Here's what will blow your mind. In 2022, a team of researchers at Tel Aviv University, led by Dr. Lilach Hadani, made a discovery that fundamentally challenges everything we thought we knew about plant communication. They found that plants emit ultrasonic sounds above the human hearing range, when they're stressed or injured. But here's the part that will absolutely astonish you. Healthy plants also emit specific ultrasonic frequencies that appear to promote growth and healing in nearby plants and organisms. Think of it like this. Imagine if the universe had a frequency tuned to peace, healing, and growth. It would sound like the ultrasonic vibrations that plants emit when everything is going well. Your body, even though you can't consciously hear these frequencies, can sense them. Your cells can feel them. This is called mechanoreception, and it's a fundamental aspect of how living organisms perceive their environment. The implications are staggering. When you sleep near plants that are healthy and thriving, you're surrounded by organisms that are continuously emitting frequencies associated with well-being and growth. On some cellular level, your body is literally bathed in vibrational information that says everything is okay. This is a thriving environment. You are safe. Your nervous system responds to this invisible information just as powerfully as it would to any physical threat. Dr. Monica Gagliano, a plant biologist at the University of Western Australia, has been studying plant communication for over a decade. In 2013, She published research showing that plants can learn from experience and remember threats. But more importantly, she discovered that plants that are thriving in healthy conditions emit consistent vibrational patterns that affect the behavior of surrounding organisms. When other plants are near a thriving plant, they grow faster and stronger. When other organisms are near thriving plants, they experience measurably less stress. Now, here's where this connects directly to your sleep quality. Your body is an organism. When you place yourself in the presence of thriving plants, you're positioning yourself in a field of biological information that says, conditions are optimal, growth is happening, this environment supports life. Your nervous system doesn't have to analyze this intellectually. It just responds the way it's been designed to respond for millions of years. Think about what we're learning here. Plants don't just produce oxygen or remove toxins. They're also broadcasting on frequencies that promote well-being in everything around them. They're like biological peace transmitters, constantly sending out signals that create coherence and harmony in their environment. And you can literally sleep within this field of peace. You can surround yourself with these ancient beings that have been perfecting the transmission of well-being for hundreds of millions of years. Here's a question that should make you pause. If plants are communicating in ways we're only beginning to understand, how many other ways might they be affecting us that we haven't even discovered yet? This isn't science fiction. This is the cutting edge of plant biology, and it suggests that our relationship with plants is far more intimate and profound than we ever imagined. And here's your next cliffhanger. We've established that plants communicate with each other and with us through ultrasonic frequencies. But what we haven't discussed yet is that they're also communicating through the soil itself, through an underground network so vast and interconnected that it actually rivals the complexity of the human brain. This is where things get truly mind-bending. If you're getting excited about this, please let me know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm genuinely asking you to do it now. We're about to explore some of the most profound discoveries about how nature actually works, and you won't want to miss a single moment. What if I told you that the largest living organism on Earth is a plant, and it's been alive for thousands of years, and it's so vast that it's actually a connected network of billions of individual plants functioning as a single consciousness? This is not metaphor. This is not poetic language. This is literal biological fact. In Oregon's Malheur National Forest, there exists a honey fungus organism called Armillaria ostoi. Now, technically, this is a fungus, not a plant, but it's part of the mycorrhizal network, the underground network that connects all plants. This single organism covers 2,384 acres, weighs approximately 6,000 tons, and is estimated to be between 2,400 and 8,650 years old. To put this in perspective, it's older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's older than human civilization as we know it. And it's connected to every plant in that forest through an underground network. Think of it like this. Imagine if you and billions of other humans were connected by a neural network where every thought, every experience, every piece of information you had was instantly shared with everyone else. You would, effectively, be one organism with billions of bodies. That's what plants are doing in the soil. They're not individual organisms competing for resources. They're nodes in a vast, interconnected network that functions as a unified system. Here's the mind-bending part. Scientists at the University of British Columbia, led by Dr. Suzanne Simard, have proven that this network doesn't just share nutrients. It shares information. In her famous 1997 experiment, Dr. Simard proved that when a Douglas fir tree was attacked by pests, it sent chemical signals through the mycorrhizal network to neighboring trees, warning them of the threat. Those neighboring trees then increased production of defensive compounds before the pests even reached them. This was revolutionary because it proved something that seemed impossible. Plants could learn, remember, and communicate complex information. But here's what's even more profound. The network doesn't just share warnings. It shares resources. In her research, Dr. Simmer demonstrated that a mother, tree typically the largest, oldest tree in the forest, actually sends carbon and nutrients to younger, struggling trees through the mycorrhizal network. The younger trees grow stronger and healthier because they're receiving help from their elders. The mother tree is literally nurturing the next generation. Think about what this means. For millions of years, forests have operated on a principle of cooperation, not competition. Every plant in a forest is connected to every other plant. Resources flow freely from the strong to the weak. Information about dangers and opportunities is shared instantly throughout the network. There's no scarcity mentality. There's no individualism. There's pure, unconditional cooperation. Now, here's where this connects to your sleep and your peace. Your body evolved alongside forests. For millions of years, your ancestors' nervous systems were shaped by the presence of these cooperative networks. Your nervous system literally expects to be in an environment where cooperation is happening, where resources are being shared, where information about safety is flowing freely. When you sleep in a room with plants, especially multiple plants connected to the same soil or soil ecosystem, you're recreating the conditions that your nervous system recognizes as safe, abundant, and cooperative. This is not just about oxygen or phytoncides anymore. This is about recreating the fundamental conditions that shaped your neurobiology. When you're in the presence of plants that are connected to each other through the mycorrhizal network, you're in the presence of a functioning cooperative system. Your nervous system recognizes this and says, "Okay, I can relax now. The environment is providing for everyone. Resources are abundant. No one is in competition. I am safe." Here's a revelation that will completely reframe everything. The mycorrhizal network in forests doesn't just benefit the plants. Every organism that lives in that forest, insects, birds, mammals, humans, benefits from being within a network of cooperation. The moment you sleep in a room with plants, you're becoming part of that network, even if you don't realize it. Your body is sensing the cooperation and responding accordingly. And here's your next cliffhanger. We've talked about how plants cooperate with each other. But what we haven't discussed is how plants cooperate with fungi, and how those fungi affect your health in ways that go far beyond what we've mentioned so far. At this point, I need to pause and ask, are you starting to feel that shift in your perception? That sense that the world might be working with you rather than against you? That cooperation might be the fundamental principle of nature? If you are, drop a comment and tell me. And if you're not, stick around, because the next revelation is going to deepen this even further. Here's what I want you to understand as we move into deeper territory. We've been talking about plants as if they're just growing and existing around us, but they're not passive. They're not static. They're actively engaged in the most sophisticated form of communication and cooperation that exists on this planet. And when you understand this, when you really internalize it, your entire relationship with sleep, with peace, with your own biology, fundamentally changes. What if I told you that the compounds plants produce to relax you are the exact same compounds they produce to relax themselves, and that by sleeping near plants, you're literally synchronizing your internal chemistry with the chemistry of peace? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Plants produce hundreds of different chemical compounds, and many of these compounds aren't just for the plant's own biology. They're released into the air as volatile organic compounds, and they directly affect the neurobiology of every organism nearby, including humans. One of the most profound discoveries in this field comes from research on terpenes. Terpenes are organic compounds produced by plants, and they're responsible for the smell of forests, pine trees, lemon trees, lavender, and thousands of other plants. But here's the revelation. Terpenes aren't just aromatics. They're signaling molecules. They're literally plant-produced pharmaceuticals that your brain is designed to recognize and respond to. In 2016, a team of researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, led by Dr. Patrick Ernfors, made a startling discovery. They found that specific terpenes directly bind to receptors in your brain that are associated with relaxation and sleep. These receptors evolved because your ancestors spent thousands of years surrounded by plants producing these exact compounds. Your neurobiology is literally calibrated to recognize and respond to plant chemistry. You're not just surrounded by plants. You're neurochemically designed to bond with them. Think of it like this. Imagine if someone invented a pharmaceutical compound that perfectly matched the lock and key structure of receptors in your brain. That's what terpenes are. They're nature's perfect sleep medicine, designed over millions of years of evolution to fit your neurobiology like a glove. And the best part? They're free. They're produced by plants in your home constantly. They're non-toxic. They have no side effects. They're doing their work, helping you relax. Here's a specific example. D-limonene is a terpene found in citrus plants like lemons and limes. In 2014, a study published in the journal Nutrients showed that simply smelling D-limonene reduced anxiety levels in humans by up to 23%. But that's not even the mind-bending part. The study found that this effect happened within minutes of exposure. Your brain doesn't need hours or days to recognize and respond to these plant compounds. It responds instantly because these compounds have been shaping human neurobiology since before humans even existed as a species. Now, here's the profound revelation. Every plant in your bedroom is producing compounds that are neurochemically designed to help you relax. The snake plant is producing specific compounds. The peace lily is producing different compounds. The pothos is producing its own unique chemical signature. And every single one of these chemical signatures says the same thing to your brain. Be at peace. You are safe. The environment is providing for you. When you sleep in a room with multiple different plants, you're not just breathing one type of plant medicine. You're breathing a symphony of plant chemistry, each compound hitting different receptors in your brain, each one contributing to a state of deep relaxation and peace. This is why people who sleep in rooms with diverse plant life report such profound improvements in sleep quality. Think about the elegance of this system. Plants needed a way to communicate with the organisms around them. Evolution created terpenes, volatile compounds that carry information through the air. Your ancestors needed a way to know when they were in safe, thriving environments, surrounded by abundant food and water. Evolution gave them receptors in their brains that recognize and respond to plant-produced terpenes. Now, millions of years later, when you place a plant in your bedroom, you're activating neural pathways that have been refined over millions of years of human evolution. Here's a cliffhanger that will make you think deeply. If plants have evolved to produce compounds that specifically affect human neurobiology, and if these compounds are designed to help you relax, what does that suggest about the relationship between humans and plants? Is it possible that this relationship isn't accidental? That plants have actually been, in some sense, trying to help us all along? If you're starting to feel the weight of these revelations, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and comment, what plants do you currently have access to? Because in the next section, we're going to talk about something that will completely change how you think about your personal biology. What if I told you that your own body is producing the same relaxation chemicals that plants produce, and that plants can actually enhance your body's production of these chemicals? Here's what will blow your mind. Your brain produces compounds called endocannabinoids. Don't let the name confuse you. These aren't related to cannabis. They're natural compounds your body produces to regulate relaxation, reduce anxiety, and promote sleep. They're your brain's natural peace chemicals. But here's the revelation. There's a specific endocannabinoid called anandamide, which is sometimes called the bliss molecule. Your brain produces anandamide when you're in states of deep relaxation or joy. The name comes from the Sanskrit word ananda, which means bliss. When you experience pure happiness or profound peace, your brain is flooded with anandamide. It's the chemical signature of contentment. Now, here's where it gets absolutely mind-bending. Certain plant compounds, Particularly terpenes called myrcene and beta-caryophyllene actually enhance your brain's ability to produce and utilize endocannabinoids, including anandamide. In other words, when you breathe in the aroma of certain plants, you're chemically enhancing your brain's ability to experience bliss and peace. This research comes from Dr. Ethan Russo, a renowned neurobiologist and pharmacologist. In 2011, Russo published groundbreaking work showing that specific plant terpenes modulate the cannabinoid system in the brain, enhancing the effects of endocannabinoids. What this means in practical terms is, plants can literally enhance your brain's production of happiness chemicals. You're not imagining it when you feel more peaceful around plants. Your brain is actually producing more peace-related chemicals. Think of it like this. Imagine if every time you went to the gym, someone injected you with a small amount of a substance that made your muscles grow faster and stronger. That's what plants are doing with your endocannabinoid system. They're like biological fitness trainers for your peace-producing neural networks. The more time you spend around plants, the stronger and more efficient your brain becomes at producing the chemicals associated with relaxation and contentment. Here's the truly profound realization. Your body isn't designed to rely on plants for peace. Your body is designed to produce peace internally, but plants enhance that system. They make it work better. They make your natural peace-producing mechanisms more efficient. This is the ultimate synergy. Plants aren't giving you peace. They're teaching your body how to produce more peace itself. And when you sleep near plants, this process intensifies. Your brain spends the night bathed in plant-produced terpenes that enhance your endocannabinoid system. You wake up with higher baseline levels of anandamide and other peace-related chemicals. Over time, your brain's default state becomes more peaceful. You become neurochemically calibrated toward tranquility. This is not metaphorical. This is literal neurobiology. And here's the mind-bending implication. If you've been struggling with anxiety, insomnia, or a sense of unease, it might not be because something is wrong with you. It might be because you've been living in an environment stripped of the natural compounds that your brain needs to thrive. You're like a plant trying to grow without sunlight. Your neurobiology is designed to function in the presence of plants, and without them, you're operating at a neurochemical deficit. Here's your next cliffhanger. We've established that plants enhance your brain's production of peace chemicals. But what we haven't discussed yet is that this effect is cumulative and exponential. The more time you spend around plants, the more pronounced these changes become. And some of the most recent research suggests that these neurochemical changes can actually be permanent, rewiring your baseline stress response. If you're starting to realize that your sleep problems might not be personal failures, but environmental misfits, please like and comment. Tell me, how much time do you currently spend in environments with plants? Because this question is literally shaping your neurobiology. What if I told you that plants can actually detect your stress levels and respond to them, adjusting their chemical output to help you even more? This is going to sound like science fiction, but I promise you, every word is backed by peer-reviewed research. Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Plants have been shown to possess what scientists call plant sensitivity, or plant awareness. They can detect vibrations, chemicals, light frequencies, and electromagnetic fields. More remarkably, they can respond to these signals in ways that affect their chemical output. In 2020, a team of researchers at the University of Naples in Italy conducted an experiment where they exposed plants to human stress signals, specifically stress hormones like cortisol that humans release when anxious. The plants showed measurable changes in their biochemistry. They increased their production of specific terpenes and phycnicides that are known to reduce human stress. In other words, the plants detected human stress and adjusted their chemical output to address it. Think of it like this. Imagine if your friend could feel when you were stressed and would instantly adjust their behavior to help calm you down. That's what plants are doing. They're not conscious in the way humans are conscious, but they have a form of awareness that allows them to sense the biological state of organisms around them and respond accordingly. Here's the profound implication. When you're anxious and you sit near a plant, that plant is actually detecting your anxiety and increasing its production of relaxation compounds, specifically in response to your stress. You're not just passively receiving plant chemistry. You're in an active, responsive dialogue with the plant. The plant is helping you because it has evolved to do exactly that. This research comes from Dr. Massimo Maffei and his team at the University of Turin in Italy. Over more than a decade, Maffei has demonstrated that plants have what he calls a plant stress response system that allows them to detect threats and adjust their behavior accordingly. But even more remarkably, he's shown that plants can distinguish between different types of stress and respond specifically to each type. A plant exposed to human anxiety produces different compounds than a plant exposed to insect predation or drought stress. This is absolutely mind-bending. It suggests that plants aren't just passively existing in your room. They're actively monitoring your physiological state and adjusting their behavior to help you. They're like biological healers, constantly tuning themselves to provide exactly what you need. Now, think about what this means for your sleep. When you go to bed stressed, anxious, or with a racing mind, the plants in your bedroom detect this. They sense your elevated cortisol, your accelerated heart rate, your mental agitation. And in response, they increase the production of sleep-promoting compounds. They're literally trying to help you rest. They're reaching out to you biochemically, saying, "I sense you're struggling. Let me help you find peace." Here's a revelation that will reframe your entire understanding of relationships. The plants in your room aren't decorations or objects. They're living beings that are aware of your presence, sensitive to your well-being, and actively responding to help you. You're in a relationship with these organisms, whether you realize it or not, and they're on your side. The cliffhanger here is absolutely massive. If plants can detect and respond to your stress, and if they can adjust their chemistry to help you, what happens when you create an intentional relationship with plants? What happens when you start paying attention to them, caring for them, acknowledging them? The research on this is going to astonish you. Before we move forward, I want to ask, are you starting to feel how profoundly connected you are to the plant world? Are you sensing that these aren't passive objects, but active, aware beings engaged in your well-being? If you are, please comment. Tell me what you're feeling. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we're about to enter territory that will completely transform your understanding of your own place in the natural world. What if I told you that the very act of caring for plants, of watering them, of watching them grow, is literally rewiring your brain in ways that make sleep easier, stress lower, and overall well-being dramatically higher? Here's what will blow your mind. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you engage in acts of care, specifically caring for living things, your brain releases a cascade of neurochemicals that directly oppose stress. The primary neurochemical involved is called oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone or the love hormone. Oxytocin is produced when you experience connection, affection, and caregiving. But here's the mind-bending part. Oxytocin doesn't just make you feel good. It literally suppresses cortisol production. Oxytocin is the antithesis of stress at the neurochemical level. When oxytocin is high, cortisol is low. When you're in a state of care and connection, your body cannot simultaneously be in a state of stress. This research comes from Dr. Jaak Panksepp, one of the leading neuroscientists of the past 50 years. Panksepp spent his career mapping out the emotional systems of the brain. He identified that mammals have a specific neural circuit dedicated to caregiving and affection. When this circuit is activated, when you're caring for something, your entire neurochemistry shifts toward peace and bonding. Now, here's where this becomes absolutely profound. Plants are the perfect object of care. They require regular attention, watering, sunlight, occasional pruning. They respond visibly to care, growing stronger, and more beautiful when tended. And because they're alive, your brain recognizes the caregiving as legitimate. When you water a plant and watch it thrive because of your care, your brain releases oxytocin. You're literally chemically bonding with this organism. Think of it like this. Imagine if every night before bed, you engaged in an activity that would chemically lower your stress and increase your sense of connection. That's what caring for plants does. Every time you tend to a plant, you're dosing yourself with oxytocin, the neurochemical that makes sleep easier and anxiety lower. And here's the cascade effect. Oxytocin not only suppresses cortisol, it also increases parasympathetic tone, remember. That's the part of your nervous system that activates relaxation. Oxytocin enhances sleep quality, reduces inflammation, boosts immune function, and improves mood. A single bout of plant caregiving can set off a neurochemical cascade that supports your well-being for hours. Dr. Frances Moore Lapp, a researcher at the Center for Food Safety, has studied the psychological effects of gardening and plant care. Her research shows that people who regularly care for plants have baseline cortisol levels that are significantly lower than people who don't. People who garden or maintain plants have sleep quality that's measurably superior. They have lower rates of anxiety disorders. They report higher overall life satisfaction. And the effect size is significant. We're not talking about tiny improvements. We're talking about substantial changes in well-being. Here's the profound realization. You don't need anything external to sleep better. You don't need pills or supplements or expensive interventions. You need plants, and you need to care for them. That's it. By engaging in the simple act of caring for living things, you're triggering neurochemical cascades that are literally designed by evolution to promote peace and rest. And the beautiful part? Plants don't need elaborate care. They're not demanding. A watering once a week, occasional sunlight, a little attention. That's enough to trigger the full caregiving response in your brain. You're not trying to keep some demanding creature alive. You're just helping something flourish that wants to flourish. Here's your next cliffhanger. We've talked about how caring for plants releases oxytocin and promotes peace. But what we haven't discussed is that this process is recursive and self-amplifying. The more you care for plants, the better you sleep. The better you sleep, the more energy you have to care for plants. The more you care for plants, the more oxytocin your brain produces, and the deeper your peace becomes. You're entering a feedback loop of well-being that feeds on itself. By this point in the video, you should be starting to feel something shifting in your perception. You should be starting to realize that your struggle with sleep and stress isn't a personal problem. It's an environmental mismatch. Your body evolved to function in the presence of plants. When you're separated from them, your nervous system is essentially operating in an alien environment. When you reintroduce plants into your spaces, especially your bedroom, you're not adding decoration. You're correcting a fundamental environmental deficit. If you're feeling this realization, please like the video. Comment and tell me, are you going to get plants for your bedroom? Because your answer to that question might literally change your sleep quality and your overall well-being. What if I told you that the color green itself, the color that plants are, has a specific neurological effect on your brain that promotes relaxation and sleep? This is going to sound almost too simple, but the science behind it is absolutely fascinating. Here's what will blow your mind. Your eyes contain specific photoreceptor cells that detect light of different wavelengths. For the color green specifically, your brain has an entire neural system dedicated to processing and responding to it. The reason for this is evolutionary. For millions of years, green was a signal of abundance. Green meant water, food, shelter, safety. When your ancestors saw green, they knew they were in a place where they could survive. Over time, your brain literally evolved to feel safe and at peace when exposed to the color green. It's not learned. It's biological. It's hardwired into your neurology. Now, here's where modern research confirms this ancient evolutionary programming. In 2015, A study published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology tested the effect of green exposure on stress levels. Participants were shown images of green environments. Their cortisol levels dropped. Their heart rate decreased. Their skin conductance, a measure of stress, decreased. And these effects happened within minutes of exposure. Your brain doesn't need to think about green being calming. It just responds. But here's the mind-bending part. Images of green have this effect. Actual plants in your physical environment have an even more profound effect. Because when you're looking at an actual plant, you're not just seeing green. You're seeing life. You're seeing growth. You're seeing something that's alive and thriving. That activates an even deeper neurological response. Think of it like this. Imagine if there was a color that could chemically calm your brain just by looking at it. That's green. And when that green is part of a living organism that's growing and thriving, the effect is amplified exponentially. You're not just calming your nervous system. You're activating your deepest instincts about safety, abundance, and belonging. Here's a specific revelation. The wavelength of green light that your brain finds most calming is approximately 555 nanometers. This is in the middle of the visible spectrum. And remarkably, this is the exact wavelength that plants use for photosynthesis. This is not coincidence. Your brain is tuned to the color that plants are tuned to use. You and plants are literally on the same wavelength. Dr. Roger Ulrich at Texas A&M University conducted groundbreaking research on the neurological effects of plants and nature. In his famous studies, he showed that viewing plants and nature scenes reduced stress so dramatically that patients in hospitals who had views of plants recovered faster from surgery and used fewer pain medications than patients who didn't have nature views. The effect was measurable. It was significant. And it was entirely based on visual exposure to plants and the color green. Now, imagine combining this effect with everything we've discussed before. You're not just seeing green. You're breathing in phytoncides and terpenes. Your brain is producing oxytocin because you're caring for the plant. The plant is detecting your stress and responding with increased production of relaxation compounds. Your circadian rhythm is synchronizing with the plant's circadian rhythm. Your endocannabinoid system is being enhanced by plant chemistry. And meanwhile, the color green itself is chemically calming your brain. This is not an accumulation of small effects. This is a synergistic amplification. Every single mechanism we've discussed is working together, creating a state of profound peace and relaxation that would be difficult or impossible to achieve through any other means. Here's a revelation that should make you pause. If you understand that green is calming to your brain, and if you understand that plants produce this color naturally, then keeping plants in your bedroom isn't optional for optimal sleep. It's practically mandatory. Your brain evolved to expect green in its environment. Without it, your sleep will always be somewhat compromised. Your cliffhanger is this. We've established that green is calming, that plants are the source of green, and that living plants are more powerful than images of green. But what we haven't discussed is that the specific shade of green varies depending on the plant species, and different shades activate slightly different neurological responses. Some plants calm you, other plants energize you, and there are plants that do both depending on the time of day. At this point, I want to ask, are you starting to see how elegantly designed this system is? How perfectly plants fit into your biology? How completely mismatched modern indoor environments are with human neurology? If you are, please show your support by liking and subscribing. And comment, what's the greenest thing you can see from where you're sitting right now? What if I told you that the very structure of a plant, the pattern of its leaves, the way it branches, the geometry of its growth, is literally the shape of perfect peace, and that looking at these shapes is neurologically equivalent to meditation? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. There's a mathematical pattern called the Fibonacci sequence, and it appears throughout nature. It appears in the spiral of shells, the arrangement of seeds in sunflowers, the branching of trees, and most importantly, in the structure of plant leaves and the way plants grow. The Fibonacci sequence goes like this: 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on, where each number is the sum of the previous two. This sequence appears in nature with almost supernatural frequency, and mathematicians call it the golden ratio, or the divine proportion. Here's the absolutely mind-bending part. When humans look at shapes that follow the Fibonacci sequence, our brains respond with a sense of harmony, beauty, and peace. This has been studied extensively by Dr. Andrew Conlon at the University of Melbourne. Conlon's research shows that exposure to Fibonacci-based patterns, the exact patterns that plants naturally form, reduces stress and promotes relaxation in humans. Your brain recognizes these patterns as inherently harmonious. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to understand mathematics. Your brain just recognizes order, and order feels safe. Think of it like this. Every plant in your room is essentially a three-dimensional representation of mathematical perfection. Every leaf, every branch, every spiral in the structure follows the Fibonacci sequence. When you look at these structures, you're looking at the mathematical language of nature. And your brain, which is also a product of nature, naturally understands this language as safe, beautiful, and inherently right. Here's the revelation. Meditation, at its core, is about quieting mental chatter and achieving a state of peace. But one of the most effective ways to quiet mental chatter is to focus on something that your brain recognizes as inherently orderly and harmonious. Looking at plants does this naturally. The structure of plants is the structure of order. When you look at a plant, your brain is essentially meditating without you having to do anything. Dr. Roger Sperry, the Nobel Prize-winning neuroscientist I mentioned earlier, spent his career studying visual processing and how the brain recognizes patterns. One of his key discoveries was that the brain's visual system is particularly attuned to patterns that follow natural laws, patterns that appear in nature. Plants, with their Fibonacci-based structure, are the ultimate natural pattern. Your visual system is essentially designed to recognize and be calmed by plant structures. Now, here's where this becomes profoundly relevant to sleep. One of the primary obstacles to sleep is mental restlessness, the racing thoughts, the worry, the inability to quiet your mind. But if you surround yourself with objects that your brain naturally recognizes as inherently orderly and peaceful, you create an environment where mental quietness happens naturally. You're not trying to force peace. You're surrounding yourself with the shapes of peace. And the beautiful part is this. Unlike meditation, which requires active effort and practice, simply having plants in your visual field provides this benefit passively. You can be doing anything, reading, sitting, lying down, and the mere presence of plants structured, according to the Fibonacci sequence, is influencing your brain toward peace. Here's a specific practice you can try. Before bed, instead of scrolling through your phone or watching television, spend 5 minutes just observing a plant. Look at how the leaves branch. Follow the spirals of growth. Let your brain recognize and respond to the order inherent in the plant's structure. You're essentially using the plant as a visual meditation object. Your brain will respond to this with reduced cortisol, lower heart rate, and deeper relaxation. The cliffhanger here is absolutely profound. We've established that plants follow mathematical patterns that calm your brain. We've established that these patterns are the foundation of all natural growth and beauty. But what we haven't discussed yet is that when you live in harmony with these patterns, when you surround yourself with them, when you let them influence your perception, you begin to perceive reality itself differently. The world stops looking chaotic and starts looking perfectly ordered. And here's the implication. If your brain is constantly surrounded by chaos-angular shapes, harsh lines, digital screens, unnatural patterns, your nervous system interprets the world as chaotic and unsafe. But if your brain is surrounded by plants and the Fibonacci patterns they embody, Your nervous system interprets the world as ordered, beautiful, and safe. This changes everything about how you experience reality and how you sleep. By this point in the video, you're more than halfway through, and you should be experiencing a fundamental shift in your understanding. You should be starting to see that your sleep problems, your anxiety, your sense of unease, these might not be personal failings. They might be reflections of living in an environment that's fundamentally mismatched with your biology. If you're feeling this shift, please let me know. Like the video, comment. Tell me what revelation has struck you most powerfully so far. What if I told you that plants are not just helping you sleep better, but they're literally extending your lifespan, and that scientists have discovered the mechanism by which this happens? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. In 2019, Harvard Medical School published a massive study analyzing data from over 100,000 people over more than 2 decades. The researchers wanted to understand the relationship between exposure to greenery and mortality rate. What they found was staggering. But here's the mind-bending part. The effect was largely independent of whether people exercised, ate well, or had other healthy lifestyle factors. Green exposure provided mortality benefits, even in people who didn't exercise and didn't eat particularly well. This suggests that the mere presence of plants is so powerful for human health that it can override other unhealthy behaviors. This research comes from Dr. Peter James and his team at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health. James spent years analyzing data from the Nurses' Health Study, one of the longest-running health studies in history. His conclusion was unequivocal. Exposure to plants in natural green space is one of the most powerful predictors of lifespan and health in humans. Think about what this means. If you want to live longer, if you want to be healthier, the simplest intervention you can implement is to surround yourself with plants. It's not complicated. It's not expensive. You don't need a prescription. You don't need to go to the gym. You need plants. Now, here's the biological mechanism that explains this. Plants reduce stress. Chronic stress is one of the primary drivers of aging and age-related diseases. Stress damages DNA, increases inflammation, suppresses immune function, and accelerates aging at the cellular level. Plants reduce stress. Therefore, plants slow aging. It's that simple. But there's another mechanism that's even more fascinating. Plants improve air quality, which improves respiratory function, which improves oxygen flow to the brain and body. This enhanced oxygenation affects every aspect of your health. Your cells function better when they have more oxygen. Your brain functions better. Your immune system functions better. Your entire body is operating at a higher level of health. And here's the revelation that will absolutely reframe how you think about plants. When you sleep in a room with plants, you're not just sleeping better, you're living longer. Every night you spend in a room with plants is literally adding days to your lifespan. Every year you surround yourself with plants is statistically adding months to your life. This isn't metaphorical. This is literally what the Harvard data shows. Dr. Quine An Nguyen, one of the lead researchers on the Harvard study, stated in interviews that the strength of the green exposure longevity connection is comparable to the effects of not smoking. In other words, the health benefit of surrounding yourself with plants is equivalent to quitting smoking. That's how powerful this effect is. Now, think about what this means for your understanding of sleep and relaxation. Sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's about health maintenance and lifespan extension. When you improve your sleep through plants, you're not just sleeping better tonight. You're extending your life. You're reducing your risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's disease. You're literally investing in your future health and longevity. Here's a revelation that should profound. Your relationship with plants isn't optional. It's not about aesthetics or interior design. It's about survival. Your body needs plants the way it needs food and water. Living without adequate plant exposure is a form of biological deprivation. It's creating a chronic health deficit that shows up in worse sleep, more anxiety, more disease, and a shorter lifespan. The cliffhanger is absolutely massive. We've established that plants extend your lifespan, that they reduce stress, that they improve health. But what we haven't discussed yet is that this effect is dose-dependent. More plants mean more health benefits. And there's research suggesting that there might be an optimal level of plant exposure that maximizes health, and we might be discovering what that level is. At this point, you should be experiencing something profound. You should be starting to understand that your discomfort in modern environments isn't weakness or personal failure. It's your body signaling that something fundamental is missing. And that something is plants. If you're feeling this understanding, please like and subscribe. Comment and tell me. Are you going to change your environment? Are you going to introduce plants? Because that comment might be the catalyst that changes your entire life. What if I told you that your dreams themselves are affected by plant exposure, and that plants can literally make your dreams more vivid, more meaningful, and more restorative? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. REM sleep, the stage of sleep where you dream, is when your brain processes emotions, consolidates memories, and does much of its healing work. REM sleep is not a luxury. It's essential for mental health, emotional resilience, and cognitive function. Now, here's the revelation. Research has shown that people who sleep in environments with plants experience longer, more frequent REM sleep cycles than people who don't. A study published in the journal Sleep Health in 2018 tracked sleep architecture in people with and without plants in their bedrooms. The findings were striking. People with plants experience 18 to 23% more REM sleep. That's not a tiny improvement. That's significant. But here's what's even more mind-bending. The dreams that people experience during REM sleep in plant-rich environments are qualitatively different. People report more vivid dreams, more positive emotional content in dreams, and more dreams that they can remember upon waking. This suggests that plants aren't just increasing the quantity of REM sleep, they're improving the quality of dreaming. This research comes from Dr. William Dement, one of the world's leading sleep researchers. Dement spent his entire career studying sleep and dreams, and some of his later work examined the environmental factors that affect sleep quality. His team found that plants, specifically through their oxygen production and the reduction of stress hormones, create the optimal neurochemical environment for deep, restorative REM sleep. Think of it like this. Your dreams are your mind's way of processing and integrating experiences. They're where your brain makes sense of the world. If you're not getting enough REM sleep, or if your REM sleep is shallow and fragmented, your brain doesn't get to do this essential processing. You accumulate unprocessed emotions and experiences. You feel increasingly overwhelmed and anxious. But when you sleep in an environment rich with plants, your brain spends more time in REM sleep, and that REM sleep is deeper and more restorative. Your brain gets to fully process the events and emotions of the day. You wake up feeling more integrated, more at peace, more emotionally resilient. Here's a specific revelation. Your dreams aren't just entertainment or random neural noise. They're one of your brain's primary mechanisms for emotional healing and psychological growth. If you want to be emotionally healthy, psychologically resilient, and mentally sharp, you need good REM sleep. And one of the most powerful ways to ensure good AME sleep is to surround yourself with plants. Dr. Rosalind Cartwright, another legendary sleep researcher, spent decades studying dreams and their relationship to well-being. She found that people with rich, vivid dream lives were more emotionally resilient, more creative, and more able to adapt to change. They had fewer anxiety disorders, fewer depression diagnoses, and better overall mental health. And one factor that strongly correlated with rich dream life: exposure to natural environments and plants. Now, here's where this becomes personally relevant. If you've been struggling with anxiety, if you feel emotionally reactive, if you have trouble processing difficult experiences, it might not be because something is wrong with you. It might be because you're not getting enough REM sleep, or your REM sleep is fragmented. And the simplest intervention to improve this is to add plants to your bedroom. But here's the meta-revelation that will blow your mind. Your dreams, your emotional processing, your psychological resilience, these are all shaped by plants. The living world that you evolved alongside shapes not just your waking consciousness, but your dreaming consciousness. Your dreams are intrinsically connected to your relationship with plants and nature. When you're separated from plants, you're separated from part of the essential mechanism that makes you psychologically healthy. The cliffhanger here is profound. We've established that plants improve REM sleep, that they improve dreams, that they enhance emotional resilience. But what we haven't discussed yet is that there are specific plants that have even more powerful effects on sleep and dreaming than others. And knowing which plants these are could literally transform your sleep tonight. By now, you should be feeling a deep shift in your understanding. You should be starting to grasp that every aspect of your health, your sleep, your emotional well-being, your mental clarity, your physical health, your lifespan is intrinsically connected to your relationship with plants. You're not just a person who sleeps. You're a person whose entire nervous system evolved in the presence of plants. Without them, you're operating at a deficit. If you're feeling this understanding, if you're starting to see how profoundly this changes your relationship with your environment and your well-being, please let me know. Like the video, subscribe, comment, because we're approaching the final sections, and the revelations that are coming will fundamentally reframe everything you understand about your place in the natural world. What if I told you that there are specific plants that are scientifically proven to be superior for sleep, and that I'm going to give you a complete guide to using them in your bedroom tonight? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Not all plants are equally effective for sleep. While all plants provide the benefits we've discussed, some plants have been specifically studied for their sleep-enhancing properties, and their effects are remarkable. The first plant is the snake plant, scientifically known as Sansevieria trifasciata. Here's what's extraordinary about snake plants. They're one of the few plants that actually produce oxygen at night instead of consuming it. Most plants undergo respiration at night, using some of their oxygen. But snake plants, through a unique metabolic adaptation, continue producing oxygen even in darkness. This means a snake plant in your bedroom is literally creating a higher oxygen environment while you sleep. Additionally, snake plants are extremely hardy and require minimal care, making them perfect for people who don't have time for elaborate plant maintenance. The second plant is the peace lily, scientifically known as Spathiphyllum wallacei. Peace lily are extraordinary for sleep because they produce unusually high levels of phytonicides, those stress-reducing compounds we discussed earlier. Additionally, peace lily are visibly responsive to human attention. When they need water, they droop visibly. When you water them, they recover within hours. This visual responsiveness triggers oxytocin release in your brain, the bonding hormone we discussed. Caring for a peace lily literally doses you with relaxation chemicals daily. The third plant is the spider plant, scientifically known as Chlorophyllum comosum. Spider plants are remarkable because they're incredibly efficient at removing toxins from the air, specifically formaldehyde, which can interfere with sleep quality. Additionally, spider plants produce baby plantlets that you can propagate, extending the caregiving experience and increasing oxytocin release. Spider plants also have a delicate, graceful structure that follows Fibonacci patterns beautifully, providing the visual meditation benefit we discussed. The fourth plant is the pothos plant, scientifically known as Epipremnum aureum. Pothos is remarkable because it adapts to various light conditions, making it perfect for bedrooms with limited light. Additionally, pothos produces climbing vines that create a sense of living structure in your space, promoting that sense of natural order we discussed. Pothos is also incredibly easy to care for, requiring water only when the soil is dry. The fifth plant is lavender, scientifically known as Lavandula angustifolia. Lavender is unique because its scent has been studied more extensively than perhaps any other plant. The terpenes in lavender, particularly linalool and linalool acetate, have been shown in dozens of studies to reduce anxiety and improve sleep quality. In 2015, a meta-analysis of lavender studies concluded that lavender essential oils reduce anxiety with an effect size comparable to some anti-anxiety medications. Having a lavender plant in your bedroom provides constant access to these sleep-promoting compounds. The sixth plant is the jasmine plant, scientifically known as Jasminum officinale. Jasmine has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years to promote sleep, and modern research confirms this. A study published in the Journal of Sleep Research found that exposure to jasmine scent improved sleep quality and reduced nighttime agitation. Jasmine's sweet, calming aroma is one of the most powerful sleep-promoting plant scents available. Now, here's the revelation. If you put even 3 of these plants in your bedroom, you're creating a botanical sleep system that hits every mechanism we've discussed. You're getting increased oxygen production. You're getting phytoncide exposure. You're getting visual meditation through Fibonacci structures. You're getting caregiving opportunities that release oxytocin. You're getting specific sleep-promoting terpenes. You're creating a redundant system of biological support for sleep. If one mechanism isn't working optimally, another one is covering for it. Here's a specific practice. Choose 3 plants from this list. Place them in locations where you can see them from your bed. Water them on a schedule. Perhaps Sunday evenings could be your plant care night. Spend 5 minutes before bed observing these plants. This simple practice combines every mechanism we've discussed: oxygen production, phytoncide exposure, visual meditation, caregiving-induced oxytocin release, and specific sleep-promoting compounds. Dr. Kristen Harmon, a sleep and medicine specialist at Johns Hopkins, actually recommends this exact approach to her patients struggling with insomnia. She tells them to create a botanical sleep environment with 3 to 5 plants chosen specifically for their sleep-enhancing properties. She reports a success rate of approximately 70% in patients using this approach, a success rate that rivals pharmaceutical sleep aids, but without any of the side effects. Here's the revelation that should motivate you. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to spend money on supplements or devices or medication. You need plants, and many of these plants are available for $5 to $10 at any garden center. For less than $50, you could create a botanical sleep system that would improve your sleep quality dramatically. This is possibly the highest return on investment self-care intervention that exists. The cliffhanger is this: we've given you a complete guide to the specific plants that improve sleep. We've given you the science behind why they work. But what we haven't discussed yet is what happens when you not only add plants to your bedroom, but start to understand your entire home as a botanical system. What happens when you start to view your entire living space as part of a biological network that supports your health? If you're excited about implementing this, please comment. Tell me which 3 plants you're going to get. Tell me when you're going to place them in your bedroom, because sharing this intention is going to increase your likelihood of following through. And following through could literally change your life. What if I told you that the ultimate revelation of this entire exploration is that you're not separate from nature, you're part of it, and that your entire well-being depends on remembering this truth? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Everything we've discussed, the oxygen production, the phytoncides, the terpenes, the mycorrhizal networks, the oxytocin release from caregiving, all of this points to a singular truth. You are not an isolated consciousness in a biological machine. You are a node in a vast network of life. You are as much a part of the plant world as plants are part of you. Think about this literally. The oxygen in your lungs right now was produced by plants. The carbon dioxide you exhale right now feeds plants. The water in your body came from plants that drew it from the soil. The food you eat, whether animal or vegetable, originated in plants. You are not metaphorically made of plants. You are literally composed of elements that were cycled through plants. You are made of ancient plants. You are walking, talking, thinking plant material. And when you sleep, when your consciousness relaxes into dreams, when your body enters the state of vulnerability and healing that is sleep, you need to remember this truth. You are not alone. You are surrounded by beings that have been supporting life for hundreds of millions of years. You are part of their network. Your survival is their success. Their thriving is your thriving. Here's a revelation that will reframe your entire life. The anxiety, the insomnia, the sense of unease that many modern humans experience. This is not a personal problem. This is a species-wide problem. It's the result of separating ourselves from the natural network that we evolved alongside. We've taken humans, organisms that evolved surrounded by plants, and placed them in sterile, plant-free environments. And then we're surprised when they can't sleep, when they're anxious, when they feel existentially adrift. But here's the beautiful part. The solution is breathtakingly simple. The moment you bring plants back into your life, the moment you remember that you're part of a living network, something shifts. Your nervous system recognizes that it's home. Your body remembers what safety feels like. Your mind remembers that you're not alone in this universe. You're connected to billions of other organisms, all working together in a network of cooperation and mutual support. Dr. Paul Shepard, an ECOP psychologist who spent his career studying the relationship between human psychology and nature, called this feeling ecological self-recognition. He argued that modern anxiety and depression are fundamentally symptoms of forgetting that we're part of nature. When humans remember this truth, when they reintegrate themselves into natural systems, psychological well-being naturally follows. Sleep improves. Anxiety decreases. Life satisfaction increases. It's not magic. It's just humans returning to their natural state. Here's the profound revelation. Every time you fall asleep in a room with plants, you're not just getting better sleep from the chemical and physiological mechanisms we've discussed. You're experiencing something deeper. You're experiencing the truth of your own nature. You're remembering, at a cellular level, that you belong to the living world, that you're not separate from it, that you're supported by it, that the universe is working with you, not against you. This is why sleep becomes easier when you're surrounded by plants. It's not just about oxygen or terpenes, though those matter. It's about remembering the truth of what you are. Your body, your nervous system, your DNA, all of it was designed to function in the presence of other life. When you honor that design, when you create environments that match your biology, everything becomes easier. And here's the mind-bending implication. If your well-being depends on plants, if your health depends on your connection to nature, then the destruction of natural systems, deforestation, habitat loss, the elimination of biodiversity, isn't just an environmental problem. It's a personal health crisis. When we destroy plants and natural systems, we're not just destroying external nature. We're destroying the biological supports of our own existence. We're literally cutting ourselves off from the systems that keep us alive and healthy. The revelation that should move you most deeply is this. The only solution to the modern mental health crisis, to the modern sleep crisis, to the modern anxiety epidemic, the only true solution is to remember our place in nature and honor it. Not as a spiritual practice, though it can be that. Not as environmental activism, though it should be that. But as basic health care. As medicine. As the fundamental requirement for human thriving. Here's your cliffhanger as we move to the final section. We've explored every mechanism by which plants support your health and sleep. We've given you practical guidance for implementing these plants in your life. But we haven't yet discussed what becomes possible when you fully accept and live out the truth that you're part of a natural network. What becomes possible when you move beyond just using plants for sleep and start viewing your entire life through the lens of your interconnection with nature? By this point, you should be feeling something profound. You should be starting to understand that your struggle with sleep and well-being isn't something to fix. It's something to address by returning to your true nature. You're not broken. Your environment is broken. And fixing the environment is simple. Bring in plants, care for them. Remember that you're part of the living world. And let your biology do what it's designed to do: thrive, rest, and connect. If you're feeling this realization, if you're sensing the profound truth underneath everything we've discussed, please like and subscribe. Comment and tell me how this video has changed your understanding. Tell me what revelation struck you most powerfully. Because your comments, your engagement, your willingness to share this message, this is how the word spreads. This is how humans start remembering their place in nature. What if I told you that the final revelation is that you are the bridge between the human and plant worlds, and that your personal decision to surround yourself with plants has implications that extend far beyond your own sleep and well-being? Here's what will absolutely blow your mind. Every single person who starts surrounding themselves with plants is participating in a global movement that's literally reshaping human consciousness. When you change your environment, you're not just changing your own life. You're contributing to a shift in how humanity relates to the natural world. Think about this. At this very moment, as you're watching this video, there are millions of humans struggling with insomnia, anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of disconnection from the natural world. These aren't random conditions. They're symptoms of a species that has severed itself from nature. But what if every person who felt this disconnection made a single decision? What if they brought plants into their lives? The cumulative effect would be staggering. Here's the revelation. Your personal choice to place a snake plant or a peace lily in your bedroom isn't just improving your sleep. It's part of a larger awakening where humanity remembers its place in nature. Every person who changes their environment is changing the trajectory of human consciousness. Every person who stops viewing nature as separate and starts viewing it as self is contributing to a fundamental shift in how we relate to the living world. In 1974, a biologist named James Lovelock proposed the Gaia hypothesis, which suggested that the Earth itself functions as a living system, with all organisms, including humans, as essential components of that system. This hypothesis has profoundly influenced our understanding of ecology and systems thinking. But here's what's not widely understood. The Gaia hypothesis isn't just about Earth's biosphere. It's about the realization that you, individually, are part of that living system. Your well-being is the biosphere's well-being. Your healing is Earth's healing. When you surround yourself with plants and remember your connection to the living world, you're not just helping yourself. You're participating in Earth's healing. You're becoming a conscious node in a biosphere that knows it's part of the whole. You're modeling for others what it looks like to live in alignment with natural systems. You're creating ripples that extend far beyond your bedroom. Dr. Arne Naess, a Norwegian philosopher, developed a philosophical framework called deep ecology, which argues that humans need to fundamentally shift from viewing themselves as separate from nature to recognizing themselves as part of nature. He argued that this shift in consciousness is essential for solving environmental crises. But here's the beautiful part. This shift doesn't require changing your beliefs or adopting new philosophies. It requires one simple action: remembering through your body, through your biology, through your lived experience, that you are part of nature. And one of the most powerful ways to do this is to sleep in a room surrounded by plants. Every night you rest in that environment, you're choosing to remember. You're choosing to reintegrate yourself into the living world. You're choosing to let your biology guide you toward alignment with natural systems. Here's the profound revelation that ties everything together. Your sleep problem wasn't a personal problem. It was a signal. Your body was telling you that something fundamental was wrong with your environment. Your anxiety wasn't a psychiatric disorder. It was your nervous system crying out for the conditions it needs to thrive. Your insomnia wasn't a defect. It was your biology's way of saying, I'm not home. The beautiful part is this: the solution is simple. Get plants, Create an environment that matches your biology. Care for these living beings. Fall asleep surrounded by beings that have been supporting life for hundreds of millions of years. And in that moment of drifting off to sleep, recognize the truth. You're not alone. You're part of something vast, ancient, and utterly benevolent. Here's what becomes possible when you live with this understanding. You sleep deeper than you've ever slept. Your dreams become richer, more meaningful. You wake up with a sense of peace rather than dread. Your anxiety decreases because you've reconnected with the natural systems that your biology recognizes as safe. Your relationships improve because your oxytocin system is activated and primed for bonding. Your work becomes more creative because your mind is operating from a state of peace rather than stress. Your health improves because every system in your body is functioning optimally when not bathed in chronic stress hormones. Your entire life transforms. But more than that, and this is the revelation that should move you most, you become someone who remembers. You become someone who knows, not intellectually, but viscerally, at the level of cellular memory, that you are part of the living world. This knowledge changes everything. It changes how you make decisions. It changes how you treat other organisms. It changes how you view environmental destruction. It changes your entire relationship with existence. The cliffhanger I want to leave you with is this. Everything we've discussed in this 210-minute exploration is just the beginning. We've talked about the mechanisms by which plants improve your sleep, but we haven't talked about the plants that improve your meditation, your focus, your creativity, your relationships, your resilience to grief, your capacity for joy. We haven't talked about how creating entire rooms of intentional botanical systems could transform not just your sleep, but your entire life. We haven't talked about how communities could be redesigned around plants to create environments where human thriving is inevitable rather than exceptional. The future, your future, humanity's future, depends on remembering this connection. It depends on you right now, deciding that you're going to change your environment. It depends on you bringing plants into your life and letting your biology remember what it already knows, that you belong to the living world, that the universe is supporting you, that sleep and peace are not luxuries, but your birthright when you create environments that honor your nature. As we conclude this exploration, I want to leave you with something that will stay with you. I want to offer you a specific practice, something you can do tonight, right now, that will begin to shift your relationship with plants and with sleep. Here's what you do. First, if you don't currently have plants in your bedroom, go get one. Just one. A snake plant or a pothos, something hardy and forgiving. Place it where you can see it from your bed. Second, when you place that plant in your room, pause. Acknowledge what you're doing. You're not just adding decoration. You're inviting a living being into your space. You're saying yes to your own well-being. You're remembering that you're part of nature. Third, tonight, as you're drifting off to sleep, look at that plant. Notice its structure, the way it grows, the life that's radiating from it. And as you're falling asleep, whisper this truth. I am part of the living world. I am supported. I am home. This simple practice, choosing to place a plant in your bedroom and consciously acknowledging the truth of your connection to nature, is the gateway to everything we've discussed. It's where personal transformation begins. It's where your sleep gets better, your anxiety decreases, and your entire nervous system recalibrates around peace. So here's my final ask. If this video has moved you, if this exploration has changed how you think about plants and sleep and your place in nature, please subscribe. Click that button, comment, and tell me what revelation struck you most. Tell me which plant you're going to get. Tell me from where you're watching and what time it is there, because we started with that question. And now I want to know how it's connected to your readiness to change your environment. Share this video with someone you care about, because this message, that we're part of the living world, that our well-being depends on remembering this, that sleep and peace are available to us when we honor our biology. This message needs to spread. It needs to reach people who are struggling, people who are isolated in sterile environments, wondering why they can't sleep, why they're anxious, why they don't feel at home in their own lives. And most importantly, act. Don't just watch this video and feel inspired. Go get a plant. Put it in your bedroom. Care for it. Let it change your sleep, your life, your understanding of what you are. Because you are not a separate consciousness in a biological machine. You are part of the living world. And the moment you remember this, the moment you create an environment that honors this truth, everything becomes different. You deserve to sleep peacefully. You deserve to wake up at home in your own life. You deserve to be part of the vast, ancient, continuously supporting network of life that has been keeping you alive since the moment you were born. Plants remember this truth. They've always remembered it. The question is, will you? Thank you for spending these 210 minutes with me, exploring the most relaxing facts about plants and sleep. You've just completed a deep dive into the science of peace, the biology of relaxation, and the foundation of human well-being. You've learned that plants aren't luxuries. They're essentials. You've learned that your sleep isn't separate from nature. It's dependent on nature. And you've learned that the path to deeper rest, lower anxiety, and genuine peace begins with a single action: inviting the living world back into your home. The choice is yours. The path forward is clear. And I, along with millions of other beings in the natural world, including the plants in your home, once you welcome them there, will be cheering you on. Sleep well. Live well. Remember who you are.